Hello everybody out there in the bookverse, it's Stephanie, and today I'm back with a video that some people might find a little controversial, but I feel like it's kind of what you do at the end of the year. You talk about your favorite books and you talk about your least favorite books. If you are new to the bookish community, these are my opinions. This is not saying that these are bad books. These are not saying that if you love these books, you have bad taste. I don't like these books. I did not enjoy them, and they were my least favorite books of the year. The first one I feel like I've talked about a decent amount in some videos lately, so you probably already know that it's going to make this list. And I also feel like it might be one of my most controversial picks of this. I don't know. I have a few very popular books on here, but Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This book, I actually DNF'd. I don't really DNF a whole ton of books. It happens fairly rarely for me, honestly, but I could not get through this one. It was really boring. There was nothing happening, and I didn't care about the characters, so sitting there through a really boring, nothing happening book with these characters was not something that I was going to be able to do. This book was putting me into a reading slump, and I had to put it down. This felt kind of like a less good redoing of his House in the Cerulean Sea, where you have this character who doesn't really understand the meaning of life, and he is such a workaholic and that's all he cares about, and then he meets this quirky group of people who teach him that there are more important things, and he comes to realize this, and that's the story. That's the story of the House in the Cerulean Sea, and that's the story of this one, and it just felt redone to me. I didn't really like the characters. I especially did not like May, the main Reaper girl. I had some major issues with the way she dealt, particularly with her reaping of Wallace, our main character. I just didn't like it at all. I had major issues with the sensitivity of it and just the way it was all about her. And she's like, hey, can you give me a good rating? Even though I pretty much sucked at my job. And this is about me and it's not about you. So yeah, this is my first reaping, and I'm just gonna sit here and mock you with my friends about how pathetic you are, but can you please say that I was good? And I'm like, okay. And then she would get on him about saying insensitive things, and she would do the same thing. And I get that we weren't really supposed to like Wallace as a character, especially in the beginning, because he was this very insensitive person, but I feel like we didn't get what he did so bad, especially to his wife. We had this whole thing about how he was a terrible husband and his wife was right to leave him and he was just so horrible, but we didn't really get a whole ton of that. We got a lot of the reminiscing on the good time, well, at least for what I read. I did DNF, but we got reminiscing on their good times and then jumped to I was a workaholic, and that was kind of it. So I didn't really feel that from this book. I also didn't really enjoy the humor. I thought it was very much mocking. I just thought it was a lot at the expense of Wallace, and it wasn't really funny to me the way that it was done. And I didn't really like any of the characters. The main guy that I think we were supposed to really like, he was fine, but I didn't really care. So yeah, I did not enjoy this book. I didn't like my time in it, and I just couldn't even finish it. Next one is a book within a YA series. I don't even know why I finished the entire series. I read all 4 books in this, and I didn't really like any of them. Some of them were okay, but this one was definitely the worst, and that is Escaping from Houdini by Kerri Maniscalco. This is the third? Oh gosh, is it the 3rd book in the series? I think it is, yeah. So this is the 3rd book in her series that follows this character, Audrey Rose, who is a young girl in past time. I don't even remember what time period we are here now. And she wants to be a coroner, essentially. She wants to do autopsies and figure out why people died. And she is on this ship sailing to America, and Houdini is on there. Everything feels so unrealistic, and I get that in this book it is, but the way that she has to be pulled into this kind of magical show, and it's so obvious what is happening with the murders on the ship. And I'm like, how on earth do you happen to be around serial killers in every single book? It's like you're not seeking them out. They're just right there where you are, and you are the only ones that can figure this out. And I just didn't think it was well written. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't really think that the plot was well done at all. It was just not good in my opinion. I didn't care about the characters and I thought they were just so dumb. Like the miscommunication in here was stupid and I just really did not enjoy this book. It wasn't for me, but I do get that if you like the more YA tropey styles and you don't mind that the plot doesn't really make sense, then that's fine. Like this is probably a fun book, but I just couldn't get over it. Next book on this list is one that I've been so hit or miss with this author, and one of her other books is like one of my least favorite books of all time. This one is just not good, but not my worst book for sure, but that is The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is another book within her kind of series that follows the Owens family, and this one we are starting out when one of the aunts hears the Death Watch beetle, and so we're kind of following them throughout the time leading up to that and then after that. I thought the characters were stupid. They made very, very dumb decisions that made no sense. I think that the insta-love in here was just obnoxious, and I absolutely hated the ending. The ending was just not good. Like, it didn't make sense why it would end that way. It didn't make sense why they would think that that was the appropriate way to deal with this problem that had arisen. That is a really big problem. They're like, oh, this is what has to happen. And I don't like I guess it's a trope. Oh, what happened at the end? I can't tell you because that would be a spoiler, but I hate that in books. I've seen it in several books lately and I absolutely despise it. It also happened in A Court of Silver Flames and I hated it in that book too. So that's just something that I absolutely do not like in books, and I feel like it has been happening quite frequently in the books I've been reading, and I'm like, no, that's not something that should happen. I just think it's so dumb. So I had issues with this book. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the storyline. The only thing I really did enjoy actually is the uncle, and I think he's been my favorite in all of the books that I've read within this series. He's probably the only part that I really enjoy, but overall, I didn't really like this book. It was just not good for me. Next on this list, I don't think actually is going to be too terribly controversial. I think that this is a book that had a lot of publicity and a lot of hype when it was coming out, and then it was not super well received, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This was a book that was chosen for the Top Shelf Society book club that I am a part of, and overall I think we were pretty much in agreement that this was not a great book, and it was not what it was marketed to be. It was sold as a dark academia, this kind of cult of these girls who were into this Greek mythology around this very mysterious professor who seems to be kind of controlling them and have a shady side to him. And while that was there, that's not really the vibes that it gave off. We were following this very annoying therapist woman who is trying to solve this murder to help her niece, and she just was sticking her nose everywhere that it shouldn't be. She was getting in the way of the police. She thought that she had the right to do whatever she wanted. She lied all the time. And the dark academia wasn't really there. I wanted so much more of this Greek group that they had going on, and it was just not what I was wanting. There were some side characters in there that I feel like were just there to be red herrings for you to think, oh, could it be them? But it wasn't well enough done that you would even think it could be them anyways. It was poorly written. I guessed the culprit, I guess you could say, from literally the beginning. I knew exactly who was doing it, and then the twist I didn't like. I didn't see that particular twist coming at the end, but I didn't like it. It's not one that I like in books, so yeah. Overall, not very good. I am still interested in reading The Silent Patient by this author though, but this one, it didn't give me what I wanted. So this next book is one that I read this year and absolutely hated, and I think you guys might actually be able to guess this one because I ranted on it and I hated everything about this book, and that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I had never read this book before, so I was very interested to read it because we were reading The Chosen and the Beautiful for our Top Shelf Society book club, and that is a retelling of The Great Gatsby, so it felt very fitting to read The Great Gatsby first. It was so bad. I do not understand the appeal of this book whatsoever. There's just like blatant racism in it. The characters were all horrible. Like, I hated all of them. They were terrible. The ending was like so ridiculous how it happened. I didn't like anything about this book. It was so bad. Did we have a story happening in here? Was there a plot? I don't know. I couldn't figure out what we were supposed to be wanting to happen in this book or what we were supposed to be getting out of it. There was like these random side story things that were happening. Our main character was like obviously obsessed with Gatsby. It was kind of ridiculous. I couldn't find anything about this book that people would like. If I could give this a 0 stars, I would, but Goodreads only lets me go to 1. Last book on this list, I don't know if it's going to be super controversial or not. I feel like the fandom in general disliking it is fairly controversial, but this one I think people accept a little bit more if you don't like it. And actually, the rule of only putting 1 book from each series applied to this as well as it did to my favorites. And so that's why this book was chosen. But that is A Quart of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. The other book that I would potentially have put on here was A Quart of Silver Flames, but I decided I liked this one less because I felt like this one was pointless. Nothing happened in this book. This book didn't need to exist. It was probably pretty much a cash grab, is what I am thinking, because there was nothing there. It was this little Christmas story where you're kind of running around and trying to buy each other presents. It was just not good. It was pointless. It had no plot. It had no character development. It had nothing happen in here that needed to happen within the series. It was just nothing. It wasn't even a fun nothing. It was a boring nothing and an annoying nothing. I don't know. I think I probably only finished it because it is so short. Otherwise, I probably would have just been like, nah, I'm good. Like, this is pointless and I'm wasting my time. Okay, so those are my least favorite books of 2021. I felt like my opinions were only super strong about some of them, and some of them were just like, this was not for me. Let me know down in the comments if any of these are books that you absolutely love. I think it's very interesting to see people's different takes on books, especially books that I love that people hated or books that I hate that people love. So let me know down in the comments, and let me know what your least favorite read was of 2021 as well. I'm very interested to know. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.